Well, thank you very much for coming along today. Tell me, when did you first realise you had a gift for storytelling?
Don't know about a gift, but I knew I liked making up stories from when I was about 3 or 4. I played elaborate pretend games and sort of sat and muttered in corners and made up all sorts of stories for my dolls and teddies and everything, and played many imaginary games. And by the time I could read and write, I knew that I wanted to write books, and made up my own tiny little so-called novels in sort of Woolworths exercise books, and really it's the only thing I've ever wanted to do.
Okay. Well, when did that first lead to your first writing job? How did that come
Well,
about?
my first writing job, it was a great relief because I'd had to leave school early and I had to do a secretarial course, and I was useless at it. But when I was looking in the evening paper for some sort of job that I could manage to do, I saw an advert for teenage writers. And I thought, well, I'm a teenager and I badly want to be a writer. And it was actually a magazine firm, and it was starting up a new teenage magazine, and they wanted lots and lots of new material for it. So I had a go, and unbelievably, they paid me £3 for my very first story. And then eventually they offered me a job. And so from the age of 17, I have been earning my living as a writer.
Is that how you came to write for Girls of the Tracy Beaker age group?
Well, I think I've written for all sorts of different age groups. I've written 5 crime novels for adults. I did a lot of magazine journalism, but I knew deep down that what I wanted to do more than anything else was write for children. And I've been so lucky because for the last 20, 25 years, I've concentrated on writing for children. And certainly, Tracy Beaker was my first really popular children's book. And I think my publisher said she's sold over 1 million copies so far, and certainly she's been my luckiest and my favourite.
Okay. Because you always write in the voice of a 9-year-old. Do you find that easy to do? Is that something that comes naturally?
I find it surprisingly easy. I don't know quite what it says about me and my maturity, but I find it much easier to write as if I were a child or a teenager maybe than I would as a middle-aged woman. I just seem to be able to think myself into the character, and it's as if I'm still a child playing my imaginary games. It just comes out the way I want it to.
Okay. And do you find the ideas come easily to you for the stories?
Ideas come easily so far, fingers crossed. Writing it down, I try very hard to make my books easy to read, but they're not always easy to write. I go through a lot of agony and worry about it and rewrite lots of bits. So by the time I finish them, it's always been a bit of a struggle. But then I'm ready to go on to the next, and then I tend to forget all the difficult times. So sometimes I'm very close to my grown-up daughter, and she might phone up and say, how's the book going? I say, oh, this one's terrible, I'm really stuck, I don't know what to do. And she always roars with laughter and she says, you're the same every single book. But at least I managed to get to the end, and then it seems to sort itself out somehow.
How do you come up with the ideas for your stories? How do you stay inspired?
I think it's not really a question of inspiration, it's a question of determination. I like writing stories, so I'm going to write them no matter what. But if I only wrote when I felt like it, I'd hardly ever write, because most mornings I don't feel like sitting down and writing. I'd much sooner read somebody else's book or go out shopping or see friends or whatever. But by the time I've forced myself to sit down at my desk, I've opened up my notebook or my computer or whatever, and I've got started, then 5 minutes in, I'm lost in the story, and that's just fine, and it just seems to work for itself then.
And the characters in your story, are they based on real life? Who are they based on particularly?
Lots of children think that I might base my stories on real people. Sometimes they think that everything I've written about has happened to me, in which case I would have had the most terrible and deprived childhood ever. Tracy Beaker, because she's got such a strong personality, many people think she must be real. Some children feel that I have fostered a Tracy Beaker myself. Well, fun though she is to write about,